Good evening. We were talking earlier, for some of you who were at the panels here earlier, we were having a good debate around the whole thing of entrepreneurship and is it nature or nurture? And obviously this is one of those ones that comes up again and again, which is it? Do we teach people entrepreneurship? Are you born with it? Does it grow? Or as one of our panellists said today, are you inspired to become an entrepreneur? And we had a great session there about risk-taking and, that whole concept of jumping out and building the parachute on the way down. And that's a little bit about what it is like being an entrepreneur. But I looked it up actually to see could I get an actual definition of entrepreneurship, and it is creating a business out of the raw materials of people, ideas and customers. I'm sure there are many definitions, but that's one, the raw materials of people, ideas and customers. And that in itself is very interesting because, the people factor, just starting there. And, one of our panellists earlier, Jerry O'Reilly, was saying that, when he founded his business, one of the first people to come on board was his sister, and then his brother came on board. And, the Friends and Family Fund, the F&F fund, is very, very important when you're starting out because very often they're the people who believe in you. And as an entrepreneur, you come up with this idea, you have this light bulb moment, you have the idea. And what do you do with that idea? Well, you go and you share it, you air the idea, you express it, you get it out there. It's only an idea and it's never going to be patentable or protectable if it's in your back pocket. You have to get it out there and air it and share it with people, and then the idea begins to become a reality. And then, as I said, the people come around you, and very often the first people are those friends and family, those people who really believe in you and get you underway. And then after that you have to find a customer. So the customer is kind of key. Isn't that the next big thing on that journey? And I came from a generation of people who were told by teachers and parents, you go to school, you work hard, you get your head down, you study, you pass your exams, you get on to third level if you can, because many of our parents didn't go to third level, so they of course wanted us to. So you go to third level, and when you come out of third level, you're told, now get that job. You're being told to wait till somebody bestows upon you this job, this wonderful job that's going to actually sort out all your problems. And of course we have to turn that thing completely on its head. We have to turn around and start telling our young people, find a customer, not a job. And that is a big shift because, even as a parent myself, I find myself sometimes saying, go out and get a job, young man, and we have to think about that. It's a customer we need. Because the point is, if you can grow or build or design or draw or cook or produce or fabricate or construct anything at all, and somebody wants to buy it from you, well, yippee, you're in business. And that's, again, as I said, a mindset. It's the entrepreneurial mindset. And where does this come from? And how do we actually nurture it in our society? But, how exciting is it to have that first customer? It really is extraordinary when you set up in business on your own, and I've done it quite a few times, and you win that contract or you get that first customer. It's really very, very exciting. And then, you have 5 customers, and wow, now this is really getting interesting. At this point, you have 5 customers, you're up and running, you're threshing. And if you have 10 customers, well, you're rushing off to talk to a VC because you think you're going to conquer the world. But it's a wonderful, exciting journey, and it is the part of entrepreneurship that the earlier panels were saying is the thing that gets them out of bed every morning, that it is that drive, that the excitement of always coming up with something new and always doing something different. And I think about this a lot in terms of our young people, and to give that confidence to young people, that imagine that sense they would get that if they knew they could come out of school or college and build or design or produce something and somebody wants to buy it, how good does that make you feel about yourself and your ability and your worth in the world, that you have something to offer that can actually make a difference to society? And obviously I think that's the thing that keeps entrepreneurs focused as well, in that you really have to passionately believe in your product or your service. If you're in business doing something that doesn't float your boat and doesn't get you out of bed every morning, well, you know what, you need to change business. Because, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, which is a sort of a hoary old one, but it's very, very true. If you absolutely love what you do. And it is that passion and that drive and that commitment that makes people want to buy from you, makes people want to do business with you, because your enthusiasm is so infectious. But thinking about that and looking at what is it that we need to create the kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem that will allow entrepreneurship to flourish. And we've heard the economy is improving so much. And Brendan, you were saying the SME sector is going to be core to that. It's not about the big multinationals. Yes, we love them when they come in, Intel and Google and all of those. But a lot of the recovery is coming from the ground up. It's coming from the SME sector. And we're seeing that recovery. I think it was on that video you showed us, Brian Dobson was saying an 8% improvement last year. Like, that is extraordinary. Germany's only going to get 0.5% this year. You know, so we are in the right place and we're in the right track. But how do we get this entrepreneurial ecosystem that will get everybody thinking in the way we want them to think, which is where the jobs and the growth will come from? And I suppose when I talk about the ecosystem, it's that we're all doing our piece and it is all joined up. And be it education, be it schools, be it the home, be it colleges, be it the banks, you know, that we are all looking at this and thinking of this together. And that's what I mean by the ecosystem. And one of the pillars of that, to my mind, is education. And I firmly believe that entrepreneurship is something that can be taught. And the earlier we teach it, the more likely it is that it will stick. And I mean, I'm talking about preschool, I'm talking about primary school. Many of you will be very, very familiar with the Sir Ken Robinson TED Talk. It's one of the most viewed TED Talks. And it's about this whole way that we educated kids in the past, and we educated them for that role, you know, that was going to be predictable and the same throughout their working lives. The factory gate, they were going to clock in, they were going to clock out. And we now need to completely turn around how we educate young people, because we have to educate them to be completely flexible for a world that is constantly changing, and for a digital age, as we were hearing earlier, that is constantly changing. And there is no roadmap. And we can't say to them, do it the way we did, do it the way it was done 10 years ago, because that's out of date. They have to be able to make it up as they go along. And the way, according to Sir Ken Robinson and other great educators, is the way we do that is in the classroom. We put them into these small groups, noisy, active, vibrant classrooms. If you hear the old quiet classroom with, you know, the finger, the Mare and Veil, and the quietness, there's not much work being done in that classroom, because that's pumping information at them. Whereas the modern classroom should be noisy and active. When the Kigera comes to call, they should be judging the teacher on how noisy the classroom is. Because if they're in small groups, a leader is emerging, a creative is emerging, a strategist is emerging, an alchemist is emerging, the team player, the connector, they're all emerging in those groups. And that's what I mean about educating for entrepreneurship. It's a whole behavioural system. It's not about actually the nuts and bolts of doing business. There's a study out of Denmark which is fascinating, and it shows that they're saying that entrepreneurial education is not about venture creation, it's about behavioural skills and life skills, because they're the things they're going to need. And this is applicable whether young people go into the corporates or stay in the world of entrepreneurship and self-employment, because in the corporate world, in AIB or Deloitte or any of those big organisations, you have to be an entrepreneur these days to survive. You have to have those skills again, those skills of flexibility, of lateral thinking, of leadership. And the only way we can begin to talk about those in a classroom term and in a college term is, as I said, in developing these little teams that will work and learn how to develop these skills themselves. Board B is fascinating. If any of you are around Mount Street, do drop into their reception and pick up the fabulous research they have. Inside reception, there is this, I was there a couple of weeks back and I picked up all of this amazing material that they have developed. And one of the studies I picked up, it was about the millennials and their behaviour and how different it is to ours. And obviously it was designed, this particular study, for the food industry, but the information in it is applicable to every single one of our industries. And it's about understanding the behaviours of these young people. And these are our customers, and we better understand them and how they're going to start purchasing. But they are so different to us, it's really, really interesting. And just that kind of research is so valuable. And we need that flexibility, as we were saying, to apply to our customers and to apply to our business, and see how our customers are changing every day. And their needs this week or last week are different to how they were a year ago. And the reason I obsess about the millennials and the young people and education all the time is that I have 4 teenagers of my own, or I should say young adults. The eldest is 20 now. And, you know, we're thinking all the time about where are their jobs going to be, and how are they going to cash in on this recovery that we're hearing about, and how are we going to train them up to be ready for it. And this is where, again, I come back to the the ecosystem. The other part of it, other than education, are the pieces that, the other pieces of the jigsaw we can put together, the finance, the hot desks, peer-to-peer support, mentoring, the government piece. When I think about the government piece, the one thing I would love the government to do is to take the punishment out of being an entrepreneur. As you know, you could pay your taxes for 20 years, leave that job because of downsizing, because of the economy, because of what's happened, and go into entrepreneurship, set up a business on your own, and if that business fails in a year, you can lose a lifetime of your PRSI contributions and supports. And that is an extraordinary anomaly, and we really, really have to work very hard on taking that away. Our minister in that department, Jed Nash, is a neighbour of mine, and I bend his ear on it quite frequently, so hopefully the message is getting through there. But, really things like that have to be done. The other thing in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that I talk about is entrepreneurial citizenship. It's very, very important that those of us who are in this space give back. Go and talk at the colleges. The other day I was talking in Dundalk, DKIT, room full of students. In the media space, which was where my background was, I was a journalist originally. I worked in RTE back in the day, and then when I had those teenagers, when they were littlies, I took some time out of the workforce and began to invest in businesses and do other things, and got going again after a number of years. But when I look back at that time and the sense of this entrepreneurial citizenship to me is terribly important in the give back, and that we give to the students, and that people like me who have come out of one industry, turned around, gone into another industry, that you show young people that that's possible. And I was speaking particularly to media graduates, and the media area is an area that is difficult enough for young people to find employment in. It was very affected by the recession. RTE took a third out of its budget, a third out of its staffing levels. It's a hard industry to be in. The independent production industry, which I know a lot about, again, very, very hammered over the last 4 or 5 years. Hopefully we'll see an upturn as well. But for media graduates, they particularly would come out thinking, I'm going to get a job in a newspaper, I'm going to get a job in a broadcaster. They're not. As we know, the newspaper industry has totally changed. Our consumption of media has changed so dramatically, and there aren't those jobs. So those young people have to come out and think about becoming a media entrepreneur, and that's what I was talking to them about. And in my own sense, the give back is giving back to these colleges and telling them and sharing your experience a little, and I'm sure that's something we all do, share your experience a bit and give back where you can in order to encourage that entrepreneurial ecosystem I keep talking about, where we join the dots and we all work towards this going forward. To finish up, because I'm sure I'm out of my time, I was giving a lecture, one of these things I do at an event similar to this a few months back in Drogheda, and it was exactly like this, one of these exhibitions and forums, and a whole clatter of transition year students came in to listen to the talks, as again we saw here this afternoon. And I asked them to go out around the exhibition, the fair, and to talk to all the people on the stands, and to come back with the business cards, and to talk to me about the titles and the jobs that the people had. So they came on back in, and we were discussing this whole thing, and this person was a marketing director, so he's in sales, and this guy is a business development person, so she's in sales, and this person is a leader of this or that, so they're in sales. So my point to them was, we're all in sales, get over it. And they loved the message from it. And I gave them an exercise to do, and their business studies teacher was absolutely delighted. I said, now next Friday, pick a day, I want you to come into school with something you have made or drawn or designed or produced, and I want you to sell it to one of your classmates. And the teacher agreed she'd have this day, and they would actually take the hour or two of the class and they would run this sale. I just wanted all of those youngsters to come in, even if it was only a hoodie that they'd stuck some applique on or whatever. I wanted them to sell it to one of their colleagues and get the thrill of going home with the €5 or the €10 in their pocket and say, I sold that. So anyway, they did the exercise, and I believe it went very, very well. But my point is, we've got to get them thinking this way, and the earlier we do it, the better. Thanks very much indeed.